Well, hello everybody. Again, my name is Adriana. I know I haven't been to one of these for a while or facilitated here for a bit. We've been busy here at the College Fund, but I'm glad to be here with you all on the last week, and I hope that you've all been really enjoying all the different sessions from the different guest hosts, and take a lot from all of this. Whether you're going into your first year or you may work with us or work at a school that works with kind of that transition period of working with, going into school or going into college for the first time. But I'm a college success coach with the American Indian College Fund, and I've been with the College Fund for a little over a year now. So I run the first year experience program, which works a lot with any student who self-identifies as a first-year student going into college for the first time. That can be anybody, going straight from high school to college, or the non-traditional route, but that's becoming more prevalent now. We see where you experience life a little bit before or after high school, then come back to college after a few years down the road. But anybody, if you're going to college for the first time, or you need a refresher, or you're getting information for your family member, then you are more than welcome here. So for today's event, we do have a very special guest. Veronica Hirsch is an addition, actually, a really great person who works here at the College Fund as well. And I'll let her kind of introduce herself more fully as well. But yeah, I'll be hanging tight here, just kind of monitoring and everything. And then I'll bring up the survey information at the end as well. So Veronica, without further ado, I will give the virtual floor to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Adriana. So I really appreciate all of you who have showed up. My name is Veronica Hirsch. I'm Cho'okonanda from my mother. I'm Chiricahua Apache, and I have the pleasure and privilege of serving as the Student Programs Administrator for Career Readiness and Employment Programs at the American Indian College Fund. I joined the College Fund in a full-time capacity last November 28th of 2022. So in a couple months, I'll be coming up on a full year at the College Fund, and I'm just so blessed to be part of the College Fund family. Not only do I get to work with an amazing group of dedicated people whose passion is all about serving our Native scholars, whatever stage you're at in your journey. If you're starting out, of course, this is focused on that first year experience, but whether you're a current student, maybe you support students as part of your work, it's just such a blessing for me to be able to work with people who are like-minded, that we all have the same goal and belief that investing in our Native scholars and their educational journeys will not only help them as individuals, but help them become those change makers, those thought leaders in their home communities, and really bring about positive transformation in their home communities. So with that, I'm going to actually go ahead and begin. I know our time, we have at this point a little less than an hour. I'm going to be presenting a PowerPoint to you. Let me just kind of briefly explain how this is going to go. So when I have a PowerPoint, if you're like me, you probably hate when people read their PowerPoint. So I'm not going to do that to you. But what I am going to do is pause at different points where I can ask you all questions. And so I have my little chat screen enabled. If you have questions, please feel free to type those into the chat as well. Because I really do want this to be an opportunity that everybody can participate. And there may be something that I have overlooked. And if that's the case, if something needs to be clarified, please feel free to go ahead and use that chat function. So with that, you won't see me as much. You might see me in a teeny tiny screen, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen where the PowerPoint is located. And I've embedded a video in this PowerPoint. We will see if it works or not. If it doesn't, no worries. So again, knowing that this is part of this amazing experience that my colleague Adriana organized, the first year experience, this quick little title is all about internships. And so what I'm going to be discussing here, any of these topics can go into further depth, really. But because this is kind of like a all-encompassing overview of what internships are, the definitions of them, where you might find them, and so on. I'm really kind of just giving a little, I'm going to say a little teaser, like a little appetizer. And of course, we can talk about different aspects of internships in greater depth. But this is more so intended to be a general overview and maybe answer some of those basic questions that you might have. You might have some more advanced questions. You might know more than I do, which is great. I'm always open to learning from other people at whatever stage you're at in your own professional journey, your own employment journey. So with that, let's go ahead and begin. So as this first slide indicates, like I said, this video, I'm going to go ahead and try to play it. Hopefully it does play. If it doesn't, no worries. You can see it for yourself. We have the American Indian College Fund has a YouTube channel. We have well over 300 videos on various topics on our YouTube channel. So just as a quick plug, if you haven't yet thought to look us up on YouTube or to subscribe to our channel, please consider doing so. You can find us here. Our handle is just going to be @collegefund.org, as you see below. So I'm going to play this video. It's about 5 minutes long. It's cute. Some of you may recognize some people in the video. They might even be your relatives or friends. So with that, let me go ahead and play it.
You have your degree in hand. You and your peers have spent the last 4 years of college life studying, staying up late, and cramming for exams. But now, what are your next endeavors on your career path? How has college prepared you for what's ahead? This is Alvin, the life of the party. Grade point average, a surprising 3.563. Alvin enjoys stickball and going to the gym on the weekends. Alvin doesn't know what he's doing with his life, but he does love 49s. Just kidding, Alvin. Alvin studied business entrepreneurship and maintains excellent relationships with his professors. But now that he's graduated and officially out of college, can his success transcend the classroom and into a career? This is Evelyn. She loves ridiculously oversized powwow bling and canned salmon. Yummy. She has a, well, not so impressive GPA, a 3.214. Okay, it's above average. Evelyn graduated with a degree in museum studies and is confident about her future, despite her above average GPA. Evelyn actually has the upper hand over Alvin when it comes to post-college success, and it all started with an internship. During the summer before her senior year, Evelyn took initiative and contacted her school's career advisor. When Evelyn inquired with her career advisor about opportunities she could utilize to further her educational experience outside the classroom, her advisor provided resources that resulted in Evelyn's internship. Let's review what exactly Evelyn did to complete this process. Step 1, do your own research. That's right, be proactive. Evelyn used popular search engines to help her find the right internship. Step 2, network on campus. Evelyn found many resources available on her campus. Your academic advisor can assist you with any questions. Step 3, check your email. Evelyn's college sent her periodic emails pertaining to relevant academic advancement, such as scholarships, internships, and workshops. So stay on top of your email. Step 4, keep your resume and cover letter updated. Just be prepared, like Evelyn. And finally, step 5, follow up on your application. Showcasing dedication is key when impressing potential employers. Evelyn followed up with her application, which showed her commitment, perseverance, and merit. With her internship, Evelyn earned an important place in the modern-day workforce. She garnered real-life experience within her occupational choice. She was mentored by professionals whose passions parallel her own. Evelyn created a career-oriented network. Statistically speaking, students who have completed internships with potential employers are more likely to secure a position with an entity in their field than students who have not completed an internship. Regardless of grade point average or positive professor relationships, Students who have completed internships are happier with their job due to the fact that they know what they're getting themselves into. The important part is that they actually secure jobs after college, while students who do not complete internships may not be so fortunate. Students like Evelyn go far after college. Students like Alvin do not. Right, Alvin? That's right.
So hopefully that quick video gave you a little bit of insight into the benefits of internships. And so some of those things that were touched upon, I will also explain right now in some of my slides. But really, the bottom line is the idea that an internship is this type of work-based experience. It gives you, so to speak, a sneak peek into what you might be getting yourself into, whatever your chosen profession might be. An internship can also help your professional development, help you develop skills that you might already have. You might even, in the course of your internship, depending upon its length and the type of internship you have, you might have opportunity to learn a whole brand new skill set. It might be that you're learning some new software. It might be that you're learning how to use a new piece of equipment, whatever the case may be. An internship allows you to have, as was mentioned in that video, this kind of practical, real-world experience. It gives you insight into the question that I think many of us ask ourselves and continue to ask ourselves. Is this job the right fit for me? Is this really what I want to do with my life? An internship can also help you decide if that's something that you want to continue to pursue, or maybe if you want to pivot, maybe you decide you want to go in another direction. You might even find an internship that is maybe a little bit outside of your specific academic major or your specific course of study at your college, at your institution, and it may surprise you pleasantly. You may think, I had never even considered this as a job possibility for myself, but now that I've had this internship experience, I now realize that this is really where my passion is. This is something I really want to pursue. So the short explanation is that internships, by and large, can only help to benefit you in many, many ways. And so I'm going to use the remainder of our time to talk a little bit about all those types of benefits. And again, at any point in my presentation, if you have questions, I believe you are able to type in the chat. I hope so. If you can, type me a little message, please. But if you have any questions along the way, again, please feel free to use that chat feature. So as you can see what this slide says, I've already talked about it. Internships can be paid or unpaid. Of course, we all want a paid internship and hopefully a well-paid internship. But even in internship situations that are unpaid, that isn't to say that you're not learning anything. Sometimes depending on the internship type, the internship organization, let's say the company or organization that is hiring you, they may or may not have within their budget to pay you. But that's not to say that you wouldn't be learning valuable skills. And that's still something that I'm going to say, put little air quotes, counts on your resume. So whether an internship is paid or unpaid, it is all relevant experience. And this is all experience that you would want to include on, as the video said, a recent updated resume. I recommend that people look at their resume. If you haven't yet created one, don't feel bad, don't feel ashamed or embarrassed. There are plenty of resume templates that are available to download for free online. You can even just type in a Google search, Google Chrome, or whatever type of internet browser you prefer to use. You can type in free resume template. And in fact, that's something I'm going to put in the chat. So you can do, like I said, a Google search, and much like the character Evelyn in the video, talking about showing initiative, kind of doing your own homework, doing your own research. I'm just going to suggest this, as I said, in a Google search, you can type in that phrase, a free resume template, if you don't already have one. I like to just do that periodically to see what other formats are out there, what other formats are maybe becoming more popular in the workforce. It's always helpful, at any stage of your employment journey to really think about the type of refresher you might need, to refresh your resume, to make it look really impressive and stand out in the mind of somebody who's reading it. So again, even if an internship is an unpaid internship, it still counts. It's still something that you would most definitely want to include on your resume. And these are some examples that you see on this slide. Sometimes, like I said, the internship, generally for students, most internships, whether they're paid or unpaid, are more likely to be available and happen during the summer months. So for those of you who are on a semester system, your semester might end around the second week of May or so after finals. For those of you on a quarter system, your semester your quarter rather might end, let's say, around the second, maybe even the third week of June. And then generally, during those summer months is when some of these paid and unpaid internships that are specific for students who are currently enrolled in, I'm going to say in this case, in undergraduate degree programs, whether that's at a 2-year college, a tribal college and university, a mainstream community college, or if you're enrolled at a 4-year degree granting institution, whether it's a state college or a private university, whatever the case may be. Generally, the idea is that internships take place during times when you're not already focused on your schoolwork, when you're not already committed to taking, let's say, a full course load if you were enrolled full-time at your institution, at your college or university. There are also options, though, depending on the type of degree program that you are pursuing, depending on how far along you are in your program. Let's say maybe you're a junior or a senior. There are some programs that do exist, though, that do provide internships, let's say during a college semester or college quarter. But especially if you're starting out, and the title of this series is First Year Experience, the assumption is that you're starting your academic career, your academic journey from the very beginning. So we really want to encourage you to be able to devote your full attention during your semester or quarter to your schoolwork. But then to also, like I said, to really consider maybe the time, the months that you have in between academic years as a prime opportunity for you to seek out internship opportunities. So I'm going to go to the next slide. And here's an internship definition. I've kind of broken it up because it's a lot of words. This one I will read only because when things feel very technical to me or very formal, I like to break it down into everyday language that I feel I'm going to say I can understand. It's more digestible. It's almost like having a really big meal, taking it in little bites. So this is a national organization, the National Association of Colleges and Employers, or NACE. It's a professional organization. And this is one of the definitions that they provide. So they say an internship is a form of experiential learning. So really that phrase experiential learning is that you learn by doing. You learn from direct personal experience. That's all experiential learning means. So when you see that, you can think, oh, experiential learning, that means I learn by doing stuff. So it's a form of experiential learning that integrates knowledge and theory learned in the classroom. So integrate is just that idea of, you can almost see it as fingers interlocking, so that you're learning stuff in the classroom, you're reading stuff in a textbook, you're having a homework assignment. So that's one part, that's this set of fingers, and integrating that with a practical application and skills development in a professional setting. And so the other set of fingers is like all the stuff that I've learned about, that I've read about, that I've taken notes on when I've been in lecture. And now I am in a job setting, in an internship setting. So now I'm going to take all the stuff that I've learned about, in theory and taken notes on, and apply it in a practical way. And so that's where that idea of integration, those fingers coming together to really provide a solid foundation and understanding for you, and also enable you to really be effective in whatever type of internship job or internship role you have. So again, breaking that down, this form of experiential learning or learning by doing that integrates, right? One hand, the other hand, all the stuff that you've learned in a classroom setting, and now you're going to apply it in a practical way, in a way that makes sense, and a way that enables you to successfully do the job that is being asked of you in that internship environment. And then the second bullet point, you see that internships, what do? Well, they give us, who have them, in this case, students, the opportunity to gain valuable applied experience. So again, you're learning by doing. You're learning that, oh, this is challenging, or, oh, I've got this down, or, I think I could maybe do this in a different way that's even better and more efficient. So you're gaining your own knowledge. You're, in a sense, teaching yourself by doing. And you're making connections in a professional field that you're considering for your career path. So not only are you learning it by doing, modifying it to suit the way you learn, the way you best adapt and work in a healthy work environment, you're also being able to connect with people that say who are the employers or the bosses in your internship setting. You're able to ask them, I say this in a funny way, you're able to ask them nosy questions. Nosy questions like, how did you get your job? You know, what was your, I'm going to say, origin story, right? Marvel's super popular right now, as it should be in the movies. And so everybody's talking about an origin story. So when you're in an internship setting, you can ask other interns, you can ask maybe somebody who is training you in that particular internship position. You can ask, the big boss, how did you get here? What's your story? What's your origin story? Looking back on your experience, what are things that you wish somebody had told you? Or what are questions you wish you would have asked? Do you have any tips for me? Do you have any suggestions? So by learning by doing, being able to have those kinds of conversations, being able to ask those nosy questions, that can really help you decide, is this the area, the type of job I want to do? For however long. It doesn't have to be forever. No, but maybe you're thinking, well, maybe the next 5 to 10 years, is this the type of job I want to do? Is this where I can see myself? And you can see the rest of that definition. This also is an opportunity for the employers, the big boss, to get to know you, to give them an opportunity to guide and evaluate you and your talent. And all of you have talent. So it's not a question of if you have talent, you do. But it's really an opportunity for you to develop your talent, for you to ask those questions, for you to ask for constructive criticism and feedback. What can I do to be better, in this particular position? Or what are suggestions you have for me to be more effective or more efficient? These are all things that are very helpful, that are also, quite honestly, very impressive, let's say, to that big boss, to that employer, to have somebody who's taking that type of initiative to ask for guidance, to ask for professional insight, to ask for professional advice. And I can tell you, as somebody who has personally worked with somebody who was a student intern for me, I was thrilled anytime that individual came to me and said, Veronica, I have a suggestion to do this process better. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's great. Thank you so much. I so appreciate that. Or having a person come to me is like, I'm not quite understanding this. I know you explained it. Do you mind explaining it once again? Do you mind maybe rephrasing it or reframing it? And maybe I'll understand it better. And as that person who was helping guide that intern, that just helped me become even more effective in my role, in my way of communicating. And I mention that because I want to encourage you to all think of internships as a two-way street. It's not a one-way street. Not only are you learning, your feedback, your ability to communicate your questions and suggestions that you have to maybe improve a process or a policy or a procedure, that is all incredibly valuable to that employer, to that big boss. So that's why I say these types of internships, they are a two-way street, and it's really an opportunity for you to develop and also for you to help other people develop as well. So I'm going to go to the next slide. There's a little bit more about internships, cute little graphic. Again, internships, in case it's not clear, I know I'm repeating myself. Internships really are this opportunity for you to explore and to decide, is this something I'm really excited about? Or, wow, there are maybe 3 different areas that I could go into, and I didn't know that until I had this internship. And maybe this one path is like a choose your own adventure book. I'm really excited, and I'm going to run down this path and find out all I can learn about it. Internships also, as I've already mentioned, really help you develop your professional skills. They help you develop what people sometimes call hard skills. And those hard skills, an example of that could be, let's say in an internship, you're working in a lab environment. And in the course of working in that internship in a lab environment, you have training. I'm going to just pick a piece of scientific equipment. You have training working with an electron microscope. And so there is maybe some specific training, a specific model or brand of electron microscope Maybe there's a way that you record data that you take from observations through that electron microscope. All of that is an example of a hard skill. It's something that you have learned in the course of work expectation. It's a skill that you have developed working with a specific piece of scientific equipment and the way you read and interpret and record data, let's say from that electron microscope. That's an example of a hard skill. So that's an example of professional development in that way. But there's also professional development using that same example. Let's say you're in a lab setting. And let's say in this lab setting, you have weekly meetings. You have weekly meetings with other interns. Maybe you have a weekly meeting, with the big boss, let's say the lab manager. And in those weekly meetings, the lab manager asks everybody to maybe go around the room or around the table, whatever the case, whatever the setup may be, and give maybe a status report or update on stuff you're working on. Things that you've completed, issues you've encountered, areas where you might need help or additional direction. And in the course of that, the lab manager asks you to come prepared with notes. They might even ask you to come prepared, even like I'm doing now, with maybe a quick slideshow or some examples of the work you're doing, and that you have to present to your colleagues, maybe to other interns, maybe other employees in the lab, and let's say to the lab manager. All of that is also part of your professional development. And sometimes people call that soft skills or transferable skills, meaning you're developing how to communicate effectively in a written format, verbally, like right now, using our words, explaining, becoming familiar, and being able to accurately use, let's say, specific scientific terminology that is relevant, let's say, to this lab setting. Those are all soft skills or transferable skills, so that even if you're not working in that specific lab anymore after that internship, let's say you go work in another lab, you're taking that skill with you. It's not like memory erases after you have that internship. So as this slide says, this internship, whether it's paid or unpaid, in whatever type of setting, I just gave you one example of, let's say you're working in a scientific lab. It does allow you to gain not only insight into, is this what I want to do? Do I really want to work in a lab environment? Is this enough human interaction for me? Am I an introvert? Do I love working in a lab environment? Less talking to humans, the better. Whatever the case may be. And then also your skill development. You're learning those hard skills, the example I gave, specific scientific equipment. And then you're also learning those transferable skills that sometimes people call soft skills. Those transferable skills are, effective communication in different formats, written communication through email, through, let's say, a type of presentation. So that's your verbal communication. All of those internship opportunities taken together are really going to help you define and decide what you want to do, and also help you identify maybe areas that you want to gain greater skill, whatever the case may be. So moving on to the next slide. I'm going to stop actually for a moment. I see some questions in the chat. Thank you so much for typing in questions. So I'm going to begin with the first one. And thank you, Lathan Jim. I see as would work study count? Now, that is an excellent question. And I'm going to say it this way. Potentially, it would depend. When you say, does work study count? I'm going to interpret it this way. Work study absolutely counts on your resume as part of your work experience. Excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of water. Maybe some of you are dealing with allergies. I hope none of you are dealing with COVID. I have allergies, excuse me. So work study absolutely counts on your resume. When you're saying all of your work experience. I was in a work study position at my institution and I did this, whatever. Absolutely, it counts. Now, it's a little bit more, I'm going to say tricky or nuanced of, does work study count as an internship? I would say it this way. I would actually talk maybe with the person who is your supervisor at your work study location. Especially, I'm going to say I'm working in a scientific lab. I would say potentially, but that's a gray area. However, what's not gray is whatever skills you've learned in a work study capacity. Maybe in a work study capacity, you've learned hard skills like learning a new type of software or learning a new type of equipment, specialized equipment, and transferable skills like I've had to do presentations. I was part of weekly lab meetings or whatever, and how to give updates. those things absolutely count. So whether it's in a work study position, an internship position, or let's say a full-time or part-time paid employment position, my answer is all of that counts. So hopefully that answers a little bit of your question. Another question we had is, would it be better if I carried a card with my contact information or a few copies of my resume to network, or if an opportunity pops up? I'm going to say yes to both. Now, especially the copies of the resume, I would say is relevant when you might be attending a conference, a professional conference. So we know we have many Native focused professional organizations like ASIS, the American Indian Society of, American Indian Science and Engineering Society. There are many other professional organizations as well that are Native specific, and also ones that are just general. So for instance, there's the Society of Women Engineers, and that's open to anybody Native and non-Native. There is the American Geophysical Union. That is open not just to women, anybody across every gender expression, every ethnicity, etc. So in those settings, when you're attending professional conferences, a national conference or a regional conference, yes, it could be absolutely helpful for you to have hard copies of your resume. But if you have a card, and something that's very interesting that continues to develop, I think, in professional environments, is now people are still using, a little business card. I wish I had an example handy. I don't. But, like a little typical little small business card, like, about that size or smaller. But now sometimes people are saying, on my phone, I have a QR code, and smartphone to smartphone, you can scan my QR code, and that will take you directly to a link, even maybe my personal website, or if I have a web page on my company's overall large website. And that shows my picture. That's a link to my resume. That's maybe even a link to projects that I've worked on. And you can even see maybe presentations that I've done. That's amazing. And more people are I'm going to say people who are employed full-time in the workforce are starting to do that. Not every company or organization does that. And I'm not saying that you have to do that, but if that inspires you and that gets you excited, I would say look into that. In addition to having, let's say, an actual printed business card and carrying around hard copies of your resume. And let's see, an apprenticeship. I'm glad that you asked that. An apprenticeship can definitely be a type of internship. And I think you're about 8 slides ahead of me. So we're going to talk about that in about 8 slides. So thank you so much for these really great, insightful questions. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So let me progress to the next slide now. And again, thinking about internships, like what is step one? And as that fun little silly video kind of pointed out, part of that, even before thinking of like, where do I go? What's step one? Is developing a plan. What seems to make sense to you? So as you do that, by plan, I know sometimes for some people, and I'm some people, sometimes plan feels like, oh my God, I don't want to do it. That sounds boring and dumb. And I'm not very good at planning, and I hate lists, So when I say plan, I don't expect it to be this type of thing where, you're locked in a room and it's kind of like you have whiteboards and little red strings. It's not that. It doesn't have to be that scary or that serious. A plan could just be even something, you might use your phone to take audio notes, to record your thoughts. You might use the notes function. You might text a friend or, a relative, somebody you trust, like, hey, I'm thinking about this, can I just kind of talk some stuff out with you? A plan, whatever format you use, whatever makes sense to you, whatever is the format that you're actually going to do. That's the type of plan I'm talking about. We all have different learning styles. We all have different ways of interacting. We all have our preferences of communicating. So what I mean when I say plan is, what is a format or a process that you're actually going to do? If I recommend a process or a format that you hate, you're not going to do it. But if you have a format or process that you like, you go to every time, use that. That's what I mean by plan. So whatever the plan looks like for you, do that and commit to it. So this is a commitment that you are making really to yourself to plan, whatever planning looks like for you. As you do that, these are some very helpful things, though, to contemplate as you're planning. So part of it is, what do I want to do? Like, what is a skill I really wish I had? So I'll use myself as a for instance. So I have a couple degrees. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Resource Science from the University of California, Davis. I have a Master of Arts degree in American Indian Studies, focused on federal Indian law from the University of Arizona. And I have a professional science master's degree in natural resources and water resources management from the University of Idaho. I say all that stuff because even in some of the descriptions of the degrees I've shared with you that I've earned, I have a strong interest in environmental science and in a lot of policy and law that affects us as Native people and our communities. And so specifically, my interest and personal research that I've done for over a decade has been all around Native American water rights settlement agreements. It's a very complex field. So I mention that because as part of research in this complex field, things that are really helpful for me to know and to have greater skill involve a specific type of software. It's called GIS for short. It stands for Geographic Information Systems. GIS software is very powerful. It's used in many disciplines, including in policy discussions and even arguments around water resources. The accessibility to water, the cleanliness of water, how much water is going to be there now and in the future, all this kind of stuff. And so as I consider the type of skills that I want to, as a person, to continue to develop, even though it might not have anything directly to do with my work at American Indian College Fund, I continually think of how I can stay current on geographic information system software. So I look up opportunities. Sometimes there are free opportunities, even online, that are downloadable for me to increase my skills and my abilities in using GIS software. Sometimes there are different regional meetings or meetings in my state that might be talking about how to use GIS software in different ways. There are even ways that I might look at different professional organizations that offer opportunities, whether they're for free or if I have to pay a small fee, to participate in discussions about, how to maintain your skill, your ability, and really be able to use this very powerful software effectively. These are all things that I mention as an example of thinking of what are types of skills that you want to grow and develop. Now, I'm not saying you have to become a GIS software expert. I know I want to one day. I'm not there yet, but hopefully, maybe. But you might want to grow a skill in a completely other area. Maybe you're interested in architecture. In architecture, you very often use a type of software called AutoCAD. It's for drafting and drawing architectural plans, thinking about buildings, thinking about the built environment, thinking about how can we make this building or this built environment more accessible to all people, whether people are able to walk or whether people use certain types of mobility devices, a little scooter, a wheelchair, a cane, a walker, whatever. So let's say if you're interested in that as a profession, you are definitely going to have to learn that type of software. So that's an example of thinking as you think about your plan, what you want to do, where you would want to work, what inspires you, what excites you, what are some of the skills that you're going to have to develop and grow. And that can also impact your decision of what type of internship you want. You can also, as I've just given a couple little examples, you can learn about a specific industry or a specific type of job. Are you interested, in working in a specific type of area? Do you know that it gets you really excited to work in an office setting? Does it get you really excited to work outdoors? Do you want to interact with a lot of people or just a smaller group of people? All these other things, it's important to think about what type of industries allow me to be myself, to show up as my authentic self with my preferences. I prefer to work in an air-conditioned office environment. I prefer to maybe work as part of a smaller team, not have a bunch of interaction with customers or the public. Maybe I'm really good at reading and interpreting and understanding policies and procedures and being able to explain it to other people. Knowing all these things, maybe I would be really good in a human resources position, helping people as they encounter different issues in the workplace. So that's an example of, thinking about what does this job do? Learning about that industry. I just kind of gave an example too about learning about a specific position. Is there a specific role that you like? Do you want to be in charge of other people? And I know sometimes it sounds fun, yeah, I want to be the boss. Do you really? I mean, and that's even a question that I've asked myself. I've been in positions where I have been a supervisor. I'm not currently in a supervisory role. And I will be honest, there are benefits, there are trade-offs, I'm going to put it that way, with being the boss and not being the boss. And I'm not going to say either one is better or worse. They're simply different. I will say being a boss or a supervisor, it is very helpful, not necessarily because you make more money, although you might, but it's very helpful because it helps teach you how to be humble, how to effectively lead other people, not by being mean and telling them what to do and where they messed up, but being a good boss is thinking with humility how you can help that person who reports to you be the best they can be in that role. So you're really always kind of thinking about things from their perspective. If you're a good boss, if you're an effective boss, what can I do in my role as a supervisor really to make your job and make the best it can be for you? And so sometimes it does require to be selfless. Sometimes it does require you to take on a lot of responsibility, as you should, if you choose to be a good and effective boss, a kind boss, because sometimes it means that you have to prioritize other people over yourself. And again, I'm saying if you choose to be a good, kind boss, if you choose to behave as a good professional relative, I'll talk about that in just a little bit more. And again, as you think about the plan, you think about, yourself. What do you want to do? How do you want to get more confident? This word, professional acumen. Professional acumen, that word acumen is just basically being more skilled, more aware of how to do stuff. So let's see. I'm going to make sure I'm not skipping any questions. No, I don't think so. So how do we, again, getting back, how do we find this stuff? Where are these internships hiding? Well, one of the things I strongly encourage everybody to do, and I have been guilty of this in the past, and as a student just starting out, didn't access my own campus resources as much as I would have wanted. Let's see. It looks like we have a raised hand really quick.
Hey, Veronica, it's me. Lathan had a question in the chat. If I need accommodations, would I inform the internship job or the supervisor?
Thank you so much for that question. And yes, in response, yes, if you do need accommodations, I would absolutely inform the individual that you have made contact with at that internship site. So now whether that person is going to then be, let's say, your boss or your site supervisor for that internship, or maybe there's a different person who the term they use is onboarding, bringing you on into that internship environment in that organization, whatever the case may be, I encourage you not to feel shy or embarrassed about saying whatever type of accommodation that you need, because especially more and more in different organizations and companies, there is greater commitment, and you can even see this on different organizations' websites, to this idea of, I'm going to put it, you're going to see this acronym a lot, and it's all capital letters, and it's DIA, or they can even put IDEA. The D stands for diversity. I'll type it in the chat. The I stands for inclusion. The E stands for, let's see, diversity, equity. And the A stands for accessibility. So more and more people talk about DEI or DIEA, however you want to order the letters. You can order them to spell the word idea. It's all about diversity, inclusion, equity, and accessibility. And so more and more companies and organizations are saying, upfront, that they have a commitment to that that's what they're about. So in the spirit of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, yes, please do not feel embarrassed or ashamed if you require a specific type of accommodation, whatever that might look like for you. Thank you for such a great question. And thank you for pointing my attention to that question. I appreciate it. So getting back to ways that we can use some resources that already exist, we can go maybe to the office and talk to the people who might have this as part of their job. Their title might be different. It might not be called a campus career center. It might have career in the title, or job, or employment, or advising, or something like that, something along those lines. But it's very helpful to ask, what do we already have? Do we have something and someone who I can have a conversation with, because that's super helpful. It's also helpful as you think about your plan. So that's why I have here accessing the resources and people on your college campus, people and resources that already exist that you don't have to go hunting for them. And then you can hopefully have a conversation with them. So that leads into the next point. Like I said, your career center, it might be called something else. It might be called employment. Those words might be in the title: career, job, employment, advising, something like that. But I would strongly consider arranging an in-person visit if you're physically on campus, or a virtual meeting once a semester. And the reason I say once a semester, it's not to stress you out, but if you're like me, it's easy to forget stuff. So if I know right off the bat that once a semester, whenever, does it have to be the beginning? No, it could be in the middle, maybe not during finals. It might not be the ideal time. Oh, so we have some talking. That's okay. But whatever time frame seems to make the most sense, that fits with your schedule, your work schedule, your class schedule, your life schedule, whatever. I strongly encourage you to find out who is that person, what is that resource. If that person exists, meet with that person once a semester. I can guarantee if you choose to do that, you will feel so much more confident in your internships work. You will definitely stand out from your peers. I'm not saying that needs to be the reason why you do this, but the amount of people who make this a practice, once a semester, are very few for whatever reason. I'm not trying to shame anybody about that, but the fact that, let's say you choose to commit to once a semester, wherever the semester, maybe in the middle, to show up either for in-person or a virtual meeting. And it's not like this is a 2-hour situation. Sometimes that in-person or virtual meeting might be 15 or 20 minutes. It might be longer, depending on how many questions you have to ask, depending on the type of relationship, the friendly relationship you develop with that staff person. But it doesn't have to be where like, oh my God, I'm gonna be there for a million years. No, you're not. It might just be 15 or 20 minutes. And so if you can commit to that at least once a semester, that would be extraordinarily helpful for you, as well as for the person who's trying to help you, because they know a little bit more about you. They can be even more effective learning what you like, what interests you, what doesn't interest you, what your boundaries are. You can only know that by that type of communication. So that's why I encourage that. And also talk to people, talk to your friends, who's done it? How'd you do it? Why'd you do it? What did you like about it? What did you not? And so on. In hindsight, what would you have done differently? A lot of these conversations I encourage people to have, and not feel that you are somehow ignorant or dumb for asking those questions. We've all had to start someplace. We all started from a place, myself included, where I didn't know. And not knowing is not the same as stupid. It isn't. Not knowing is simply, I don't know yet. But I can guarantee if you choose that 15-minute convo once a semester with someone, whatever that person's name is and their title is on your campus, you are going to feel less like you don't know stuff. You are going to feel much more confident. I know a little something about something related to this internship business. So let me continue forward. I also encourage you, and you'll see I have this in bold, Disney College Program for a reason. I also encourage you to go directly on to some of these companies' websites. A lot of companies have websites, even companies that are small-ish, maybe 25 people around there or more. A lot of companies and organizations have some type of website presence. And so you can access those websites. Again, Google Chrome, whatever browser you love using. I go to Google Chrome, it's my fave. You can type that in and learn, who are these people? Look at their About Us. Sometimes it says About Us. Sometimes it says Our People. Sometimes it says History. Sometimes it says Mission or Vision. Who are these folks? Why do they exist? Do I like them? Would I want to work for them? And by doing that, you can see what type of opportunities they have available for you. So I don't know how many people love Disney. I love the Disney employees I've gotten to meet. I cannot say that I love Disney as in I go to Disneyland all the time, but I have had the pleasure and privilege of meeting employees at Disney, at Disney's Orlando Resort this past May, and it was an amazing opportunity. So I include this link here. Disney has an amazing college program. And Disney is one of the corporations that helps fund scholarships at the American Indian College. They've been a long time donor to our students. They really prioritize what I mentioned earlier, diversity, inclusion, equity, and accessibility. So they've been a longtime partner with the American Indian College Fund, and we're very appreciative of how they have chosen to show up as, I'm going to use that phrase again, good professional relatives to us at the College Fund. So Disney is just one example. I just gave that in there, a shameless plug, because the staff that I've met there, like I said, do I go to Disneyland all the time? No, I don't. I'm not interested. However, the people who work there are extraordinary people, and I can't say enough good things about them. So that's just one example of one, large, recognizable company, has an international reputation, and they have specific programs, internships, paid internships for college students. You can also think about researching and joining various professional organizations at the national level, the local level, and so on. Because a lot of times these professional organizations, I've already mentioned ACES, I've also mentioned the Society of Women Engineers, there are many others. A lot of times they have a specific section on their website that's called jobs or employment. Sometimes they have a very specific section for students, and it says for students, whether you're an undergraduate student or a graduate student. They might even have a specific link to internships. All these companies organize their websites differently. So sometimes it's just a matter of devoting, some time as you choose to research to find out what is out there, what interests you, what exists. And I'm going to skip forward a couple other sites. Another one is through the federal government. I just took a screenshot of this, less than an hour before this presentation. So usajobs.gov is our nation's, the United States, federal employment website. I created a USA Jobs account. I'm going to make myself sound very old. I'm 48. I first created my account, it seems like a million years ago, when I was about 22, 23 years old. I will say this, the website has been updated. The website is not necessarily the easiest, I admit. However, when you choose to create an account, anytime you do a job search, you can save those searches. So that does kind of save some time. You don't have to start right from square one every time you want to look up something. So you can create an account, make sure that the email that you include when you create an account, make sure it's an email you check often. And that really goes for all of the advice, all of the suggestions that I'm providing, and even that little video that you saw. When you're on your internship search, make sure you include an email address that you will check. I'm going to be bold and say once a day. Now, you don't have to check it a zillion times in a day, but once a day. Because sometimes internships pop up and there's a very short window of opportunity to apply. But if you've just made it a habit, a practice, right? It's part of your plan just to check it once a day, real quick. Oh, I don't see anything. Close it out. Not a problem, not an issue. It took you maybe 5 whole seconds to see if something has come to that email address that you check once a day. That's super helpful. So in this case, I just typed in internship, and then all these internships came up. Now, these first ones came up, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money. When you scroll down, when you type in internship, and you can specify, the location where you want to be, you can also specify if you want a remote type of situation. I decided to order these in terms of what pays the most to what pays the least. There are several unpaid internships for the federal government. But there are also several paid internships for the federal government. So again, I strongly encourage you to consider this as another resource to access. You can also find out in your own community, whether you live within or close to your own tribal community. Maybe you don't. Maybe you are mostly urban living. That's my experience, my personal experience. But regardless, I still encourage you to access your tribe's departments that I have listed here. It might be the education department, jobs or employment, or human resources, whatever it's called. Your tribe's departments that I have listed, they might have their own website, or it might be a tab on the overall official tribal website for your nation, for your native community. That's also a very helpful place to start. And they might not have a ton of information, they might, but we don't know unless we look. And even then, maybe there's a person who's listed, for questions related to HR, for questions about jobs, for questions related to education, contact these people. And that's when you can do that. You can contact them by email or telephone or both. And just by way of introduction, hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm a citizen of this community, of this tribal nation. And I'm a student and I'm very interested in gaining real world practical experience in an internship environment. Would that be possible? What do you suggest? And it could be something as simple as that. And sometimes the person's like, oh my gosh, we've been dreaming of you. And sometimes it's like, oh, I don't know, but let me find out. Sometimes it's one of those situations. So even if something doesn't exist yet, who knows? You might be the catalyst to make something happen, not only for yourself as an intern working for your own tribe, but maybe for future interns who are also citizens of your tribal nation. And I know I'm getting close on time. So these are some of the outcomes that can be really beneficial. And thank you also. That's a great suggestion in the chat. Some colleges will also have a job or internship fair. Absolutely. Again, make sure that you're looking at your own campus for those resources that already exist. Thank you for that, Cassandra. So again, internships, all these ways that they can benefit. They can help you see and believe in yourself, your talents, your abilities, how you advocate, meaning how you kind of, fight for yourself, stand up for yourself. They can offer all these different types of mentoring opportunities, not only, let's say, from the big boss but also people that you work with, maybe even fellow interns. They can help you develop how you understand the culture of work. And I'll be honest with you, work has its own culture, has a way of, we might behave or say or think or act in certain ways, in our own time with our families, with our friends. That will differ, let's say, from the way we see and behave and act and respond in a work environment, in a work culture or a corporate culture. But they can also help you decide how you want to behave, how you show up authentically as your true self. That's important. Show up as your true self. And in doing so, think about, well, what qualities would make me a good relative in work? That's why I use that term, good professional relative. They can also help you develop your idea of that purpose and meaning, what you're considering for your future. We did have a great question from Lathan Jim about apprenticeships. So in a sense, this idea of experiential education also relates to internships in these various ways. Sometimes you'll see these different terminology, but arguably they can provide similar experiences to internships, whether it's an apprenticeship, as you see here, externship, fellowship, practicum, and so on. And these are some free resources that we have available on the American Indian College Fund. You can find them here. I'm actually going to include these. See if I can do it. No, I can't. I was going to try to highlight that in the chat. But anyway, if you go on our main website, American Indian College Fund, we have a little search function. If you type in connect, as you see in all caps, it'll take you directly to this link. You can also type in focus 2, and again, it will take you directly to this link. And so with that, I think we had some questions peppered throughout, but now I'm just going to say, thank you so much for your wonderful questions. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to participate today. And as was mentioned at the beginning, this session is recorded. It will be available. If you would like a PDF version of this presentation, all you have to do is, I'm going to put my email in the chat, is contact me. And I am happy to provide it as being your good professional relative. As a good relative, I simply ask that you not modify this PDF. If you reference it for anything, I just trust and believe that you will give appropriate credit where it's due. So thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Veronica, for doing that really awesome overview of everything around internships and really breaking down the terminology and the different cohorts that go into internships. I think that's a really essential. And as you go along in your undergraduate journey, you'll hear a lot more about different internship opportunities and really just learn more about it. Like we covered some, other questions asking about internships. There's also fellowships. There's also, the difference between paid and unpaid internships and why you should, try to stay unpaid, but there's some benefit with the unpaid, I swear. But yeah, thank you so much for that. I know with the, as we go more into like the first year program, going into the academic year, I want to kind of go more into like the career and internship route, kind of revolving more around like conversation and just to kind of see what any if there are any reservations about applying for internships or anything, or even how to find them. So yeah, thank you so much, Veronica. But yeah, let me go ahead and do my final spiel. So if you guys have been paying attention to the schedule, this is our last official webinar. So I just want to Am I still here?
You are.
Okay, that was weird. It told me that Zoom just crashed on me all of a sudden.
I know it says Zoom quit unexpectedly on my screen too, but we're still here. We're still talking. So we're going to go.
Okay, awesome. So that was weird.
Oh no. I think we lost Adriana. Okay, now you're back.
Oh my gosh, I've been having
That was scary.
technical difficulties all day. That was so weird. Anyways, I shouldn't be too much longer. But if you've been keeping up with the schedule, you know that this is our last official webinar of the first year summer experience. So yeah, thank you so much for all joining us within this first ever summer series with the first year experience. I have really appreciated all of your feedback with all the surveys, of course, and we're going to be using all of those suggestions and kind of putting together a nice little infographic for all the other people who have been guest hosting different sessions here to kind of see and hear from your awesome words and everything. So yeah, all we have left is the summer series closing celebration, which is happening tomorrow at 4 p.m. Just remember that we're going to have some really awesome people show up. And then let's see, so then we have the survey as well. Please fill that out for this final session, just so we can get your feedback, get some awesome comments and everything, so I can pass them over to Veronica, and we can also see what we can improve for next year as well. Let's see, and then you know that's basically your ticket to get into the door prize drawing. So if you attend one session and you fill out one survey, you are entered to win a $50 gift card. If you attend 2 sessions and fill out 2 surveys, you are entered to win a pair of wireless headphones. If you watch 3 sessions and you fill out 3 surveys, you are entered to win an Amazon Fire tablet. And if you are watching 4 or more sessions and filling out all those surveys, we will definitely put you into win a laptop. So yeah, really awesome. And you have until September 1st. We will close all the surveys on September 1st. So if that's a week after everything ends, so you can go on YouTube and watch them and then fill out the surveys. And then I'll put Zoom links here in a bit. So we saw the schedule. We have the summer series closing session tomorrow at 4 p.m. And we're going to be hearing from a really awesome special guest keynote speaker. This is Dr. Amanda Sheromaya. She is a consultant right now, but is from the Pueblo of Acoma. I hope that's right. I think that's right.
She's from Laguna Pueblo. Yeah, she's
from Laguna Pueblo. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Laguna
no
Pueblo.
worries. No
I
worries.
need to make sure that's correct. Yeah, she is from the Laguna Pueblo, and she's going to be giving some really awesome keynote and motivational speeches tomorrow. And then we will also end with a live student panel Q&A. So you'll get a chance to hear from a few of our student ambassadors and just kind of ask them questions about everything revolving around being a student. You can ask them advice, questions about, internship experience, work experience, and then all the different things there. So you can definitely do that. And then we have been getting some questions coming in, but if you want to get a chance to submit a question early to ask them, feel free to scan this little QR code so that you can enter one, but we'll also be accepting questions at the live event as well. So without further ado, let me go ahead and just paste that survey link in here.
And I think there was also a request to put the link for tomorrow's event in the chat as well. So hopefully that's
okay.
All those links aren't too confusing for folks.
Let me do that. So
and
here
just so
is
knows my little black cat is a paid actor, so that's who you hear meowing.
All right, there's that. And then I will post the webinar link for tomorrow. And it is a webinar again, so it'll be set up a little different where you won't be able to see yourself or come off mic, but we definitely invite you to participate in the comments and chat and everything. So let's see. And there's the registration for tomorrow's event. But yeah, we'll hang back here for a little bit if you have any final questions. But if not, please fill out those surveys and then we'll get in contact with you should you win a door prize. But thank you all so much. And I hope you all have a great evening. And for those of you who are in school, good luck on your school year. If you're not in school, just good luck as we head into the fall and winter months. Thank you all.